Welcome to the McGaw YMCA Camp Echo Trailblazers 1 and 2 info video. My name is Bernard Rocca. I am the Executive Director of Camp Echo. I'm excited to share a little bit about what our Trailblazers programs are all about. If you're interested in the program or if you're already enrolled and want to learn more about what to expect. So all of our programs share the same goals: safety, community, personal growth, and have fun. We live these out in a lot of different ways throughout our programs, as campers, as staff. Here you can see some kiddos experiencing these things. Safety, obviously, wearing our life jackets, our sun protection, being really thoughtful about how we approach our time away from camp and on camp. The community that's built through our trip program, some of the deepest connections and group formations that form through these wonderful experiences, and then the personal growth of new skills and challenges as we were out in the wilderness as a group, and of course through that all having fun along the way. We talk a lot about progression in the Camp Echo programming, and specifically within the adventure trips. The Trailblazers programs are the first step in our progression of experiences. And so here you see a little map showing just north of Chicago area where the McGaw YMCA is located, and then in central western Michigan, where Camp Echo is located, and then the destinations of our Trailblazers groups. So our Trailblazers I backpacking group heads up north, generally to the Manitou Islands, just off the coast of Michigan's Leelanau Peninsula. Our paddle groups stay just a little bit south there. Both are about 2.5-hour drives north of camp. The Trailblazers paddle groups go on the Manistee River, and then further north up into the Upper Peninsula, you can see the destination of Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, where our Trailblazers II groups go. The smaller triangles spread throughout the Midwest indicate the various other Camp Echo trip destinations: Porcupine Mountains in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Isle Royal National Park, Minnesota Boundary Waters, Georgian Bay of Lake Huron, and then Lake Superior Provincial Park, just north of the peninsula, where Wilderness Leadership Experience is heading in some years. And you'll notice the trend that Trailblazers I stay a little bit closer to camp, Trailblazers II venture a little further, and then our more advanced trips venture even further afield. And so that is the progression of destination. Similarly, the duration of time on trail. So our Trailblazer I groups spend about 4 to 5 days on trail versus Trailblazers II, which are on trail for 5 to 6 days. And then our other Camp Echo trips that spend 7 or more days on trail. And when we talk about on trail, not all of the groups are on actual trails. Some of our paddle trips have a little bit more freedom to roam, but all of our time away from camp, we often refer to on trail, and even more specifically sometimes our time in the wilderness when we are hiking or paddling, not necessarily in transit to our destinations. And the daily distances that groups take on vary slightly as well. Our Trailblazers I backpacking group can expect about 4 hours of hiking a day. Sometimes it's more of day hikes from a base camp, or loaded hikes where we're moving our camp from one site to another. Whereas our Trailblazers II groups can expect 4 to 6 miles of hiking. So there's more of a specific goal in mind of how far the group has to get, whereas Trailblazers I is more about kind of how much can the group experience, and what, not being so concerned about the distance that's covered, but more the amount of time that's spent exploring. And then the paddle groups, Trailblazer I paddle can spend about 4 hours on the river as well. Of course, river conditions vary dramatically based on the weather and water levels, based on how much rain we've had, and, but generally speaking, about half the day, about 4 hours of paddle time and float time. So this is a sample itinerary. We'll go through a couple of different sample itineraries. Trailblazers I and II will spend about half their time on camp property and half their time away from camp on trail and in transit. For Trailblazers I, some of our groups depart camp in the first week and then spend the second week on camp, and some groups spend the first week on camp and then depart the second week. So this sample schedule shows a group that would be on site during the first week, experiencing all the traditional camp programming, traditional camp activities, evening programs, but also building out time for their adventure trip prep. So doing some of that trip prep, spreading it out throughout the course of that entire first week. Friday evening or Saturday, they head off to start their adventure. They hike and paddle Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, finish up on Wednesday and come back to camp, and then close out on Thursday with all sorts of fun at camp. This next itinerary kind of shows the flip-flop of that. So the group spending that first day prepping at camp on Monday before departing on Tuesday, and then paddling or hiking Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, finishing up on Saturday, or possibly Sunday morning, depending on ferry schedule, and then launching into the traditional camp schedule throughout that second week. In both cases, the group will be sleeping in camping tents during their trip week. And so even the 1 or 2 days before or after their wilderness time, while on site, they'll be sleeping in their tents. And then the week that's focused on traditional camp activity, they'll be sleeping in a Camp Echo traditional camp cabin. Trailblazers II is a very similar schedule, although slightly less time. So that first week, they'll have 4 days instead of 5 days on site. And then on Friday, they drive up to Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore in the Upper Peninsula, and they start right away. They get a 1 mile hike to their first campsite on Friday and are sleeping in the wilderness Friday night. And then hike Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and finish up on Wednesday, and then drive back to camp Wednesday. It's about a 6-hour drive, allowing for some stops along the way. Then they'll kind of clean up, debrief on Thursday, and head home on Friday or be picked up. So what does that actually look like? So these are some pictures for on trail. And if you're wondering why these pictures look a little bit maybe out of focus, a little bit grainy, that is not a mistake. That is a product of the disposable cameras that we send on trail. Our groups don't take much in the way of electronics, not like our on-site programs that have a photographer taking pictures of the entire experience. And so we send every group with a disposable camera, which is a fun activity that gets passed around to different participants. Everyone gets to take a couple pictures. And then at the end of the trip, when they get back to camp, we send it off to be processed. And so these are some groups hiking on the Manitou Islands. You can see the ferry that they take to get to the island. It's about a 2-hour ferry ride, give or take, depending on schedule and weather. Doing some day hikes, exploring the beautiful beaches of the Manitou Islands, and setting up camp. These are pictures from the Manistee River. This is a group, although the upper left, that is at camp, so a lot of our adventure trip groups spend some time on our high ropes course while on camp before heading off and paddling the Manistee River, enjoying meals in the campgrounds and picnic tables, as you can see. And then Pictured Rocks. And so it's actually been a couple of years since our group has been to Pictured Rocks, but these are photos of groups heading to Trailblazers. And so we brought Trailblazers II started in summer 2024, but previously as part of the Superior backpacking trip, groups have been there in summer 2022 and previously. So again, beautiful coastlines and hiking as a group. So who's going on these trips? You've been thinking about, okay, how am I going to experience it? Who's on the trip? All of our Trailblazers groups will have at least one adventure trip guide, and generally one trip guide paired with 1 to 2 traditional camp counselors. And so wilderness first responder and at least 1 lifeguard. For our paddle trips, at least 2 lifeguards, with extensive staff training both for the on-site portion of the experience as well as out in the field. Up to 10 participants in our Trailblazers groups. And sometimes there'll be multiple sections in the same session, particularly for Trailblazers I, where our groups are sometimes split into multiple sections, and varying experience, and we expect that these are entry-level trips, and so we really expect and welcome people with no wilderness experience, as long as they're willing to kind of take those steps to adventure beyond traditional camp. Getting to camp, like all our programs, buses from the Gall YMCA or getting dropped off at camp between 2 and 2:30 on a Sunday. Time to meet the group, build team, get oriented to both traditional camp and the Adventure Trip Center. Groups that are leaving in that first week will likely accelerate into the trip orientation and preparation. Gear, a lot of gear to go on trail. So our Camp Echo team provides a lot of the group gear: tents, dry bags, stoves, pots, pans, water purification. Then there's a lot of personal gear: sleeping bags and sleeping pads, footwear, clothing and rain gear, personal dishes, bowls, cups, utensils and such. And then there's a more complete packing list on your Camp in Touch account. And this does vary a little bit. We tweak these packing lists year to year, so definitely consult the latest packing list you have in your account, and know that Camp Echo team can help you if there are certain items that you can't obtain yourself or are hard to get. And we really, especially with our Trailblazers, we don't want you to be spending a lot of money on technical gear. It's a shorter duration in the wilderness, and really we want you to utilize what you have: sturdy footwear, which we'll talk about in a moment, but warm gear as well, and gear that will keep you safe and protected out in the wilderness. There is also, I should add, a form in your Camp in Touch account where you should be able to inform us of any needs. You can let us know in your camper forms if there's anything you need. Food on the road. So usually we'll stop for a restaurant meal at some point, and our guides will be able to pay for that. All of our other meals are packed out in our trip center. So again, no need for extra money on our Trailblazers groups, even though they're leaving camp. And everyone in the group gets provided a little bit of input. We have some standard meals that we often use in the wilderness, and adjust them to make sure that everything is safe for those with allergies or any other dietary restrictions, and plenty of personal snacks. Really important to stay well nourished while we're on trail so that we can make sure that we're still carrying forward, have all the energy we need out in the wilderness. Sleep is super important. We want to make sure everyone is sleeping on site. I talked a little bit earlier during the 1 week on site, sleeping in cabins. Otherwise, generally in tents. And so in tents with 3 to 4 people of the same gender identity in all of our programs on trail. And any questions, our guides again work with campers to make sure that everyone's getting pairings, comfortable sleeping in the tent, have everything they need: good sleeping bag, sleeping pad. Don't necessarily need to bring a pillow. A lot of good tricks for how to stuff a fleece or a sweatshirt into a t-shirt to make a pillow while you're on trail, so it's one less thing to carry. Generally don't bring big pillows. Self-care, checking in with folks. We do something called SMAB check-ins, spirit, mind, and body check-ins with our campers to make sure everyone's feeling okay, physically, emotionally, spiritually, in whatever way spiritually shows up. Camp Echo Spirit, we often talk about motivation and energy to be going along with the group and bringing your best self. Though we do get dirty on trail, we are still hygienic. So brushing our teeth, washing our hands. Though there aren't showers on trail, there are almost always pit toilets. And in emergency situations, trowels to dig holes if we can't make it to the next campsite. Sun protection is super critical. Sun shirts are required while paddling. And we recommend long pants whenever we are hiking, just to protect our legs from bugs, ticks, mosquitoes, and any other sharp branches or things that we might have to hike through. We don't have campers should not have cell phones in any of our Camp Echo programs. Our guides do have satellite phones. And emails will not be received while on trail, but will be ready for campers if they get back camp. In the event of emergency, we do have satellite phones with our groups so they can check back with camp, let us know how they're doing. Groups check the weather proactively, and we check before groups leave camp. And then, with those satellite phones, the guides are able to check in with all of our experts at camp, our health officers, our mental health professionals, our full-time staff, and so forth. And major changes to the itinerary or early departures will be communicated with parents by the Camp Echo team. And if there are any medical emergencies in the field, our guides will likely reach out directly to families to make sure that they know what's going on with their campers, and that we're getting everyone the best care possible. So how do you prepare? Again, beautiful photo looking out over Sleeping Bear Dunes. Bring warm, comfortable apparel. Like I said earlier, don't go out of your way to purchase things, but look at what you have and let us know if there are things that you need. We generally want to avoid cotton, though it says t-shirts here. Even with t-shirts, if we can't avoid it, we again understand if that's what predominantly most of your t-shirts are, that we can make that work. But we recommend if you have other options, sports shirts, quick dry shirts, those are really helpful. This top photo is of one of our groups on a ferry going out to Isle Royal, and just showing that things can get cold, it can get windy as our groups are on the water near lakes. So they're using all of their gear to stay warm while they're on the ferry. And then the group below paddling are wearing their long sleeve sun shirts and wide brim hats to help protect from the sun, which is really, really important. Boots are really important, sturdy shoes for hiking. Again, these are showing some hiking boots. For Trailblazers, sturdy shoes, sneakers, we want to make sure the soles are really strong. And our groups do hike on relatively soft soil, sandy islands of the Manitou Islands, so not as rugged, but they will be carrying a load, and we'll make sure that they're not just showing up with low top sneakers as shown in this picture for their primary hiking shoe. Anytime our groups go in the water, they do need to have water shoe on. We really want to protect our campers and our families, or our campers for their families and for themselves from any objects that might be in the water that we can't see, sticks, sharp rocks, garbage. They could hurt someone's foot when they go in the water, either paddling or swimming at one of our backpacking destinations. And so a lot of custom water shoes that are out there, but also just some lightweight sneakers can be really great. The quicker they can dry, the better. And then optional footwear, if you want to bring a comfy shoe to wear in camp, that's fine. We don't allow flip-flops just because those are super dangerous and easy to really hurt your feet. But if you want to bring a Croc or a Chaco or a sports sandal like a Teva, or a lightweight sneaker to wear around camp at the end of the day, that's totally fine. But we don't allow you to use those as your water shoes except for the lightweight sneaker and or the hiking. Be prepared physically, stay active. Think about leading up to your trip, being outside, and you don't need to go for runs or bike rides specifically, but just being active. Those are great. Anytime you can be active, that's super helpful. Again, we talked about earlier, no cell phones, medication. Make sure that all medications are checked in before departure, and the guides will take that with them for the off-camp portion. Otherwise, it'll be administered at camp and recorded, and we'll follow up with families if we have any questions. And again, no additional money is required for any of our participants who know they leave camp. They also are guides by the souvenir while they're on the road, which is a super fun part, something that everyone in the group gets. So those are our Trailblazers trips. We hope that you have gotten most of your questions answered, but we know there are often more. So feel free to reach out to us, review some of the materials on our website, and if you're registered in your Camp in Touch portal. And we look forward to seeing you on trail this summer.